She lies next to you, scrolling through her phone, wearing the same oversized t-shirt she's worn for 3 nights straight. You reach over, and she shifts away. Not dramatically, just enough to signal that tonight, like most nights, nothing's happening. She's tired. She's stressed. She's not in the mood. Always something. Meanwhile, she still thinks she's a prize she was at 25, the woman men would fight for, still deserving of your desperate pursuit. But she hasn't touched you with genuine desire in months. Here's the brutal truth destroying your marriage. She doesn't see the disconnect. In her mind, she's still that hot girl you couldn't keep your hands off. She's still the one doing you a favor by being there. She's still valuable enough that you should be grateful for whatever scraps of affection she occasionally throws your way. And you're reinforcing this delusion every single day by accepting it, tolerating it, and being a good husband who doesn't complain, doesn't demand, and doesn't create consequences for being treated like furniture. You think you're being patient. You think you're being understanding. You think love means accepting whatever she's willing to give. But what you're actually doing is training her to give you less. Teaching her that minimal effort gets maximum reward. Showing her she can neglect you without consequence. And then you wonder why her desire is dead, why she treats you like a roommate. Why the woman who once couldn't keep her hands off you now can't remember the last time she wanted you. The sickness runs deeper than just sex. It's about how she sees you, how she values you, how she's forgotten that you're a sexual being with needs and desires. She's compartmentalized you into the provider box, the comfort box, the stability box. But the lover box has been sealed shut and forgotten. And every day you accept this arrangement, you're signing your own sexual death certificate. Married women who lock down their husbands young often live in a fantasy bubble. They still think they're 25. They still think they're the catch. They still think male attention means what it meant before they had a ring. They confuse the gym trainer being friendly with genuine interest. They mistake a coworker's politeness for attraction. They interpret social media likes as proof they've still got it. And this delusion feeds their complacency. She doesn't realize sexual attention isn't the same as being chosen. Men will flirt with anything halfway attractive. They'll give attention to any woman who might give them something. But would they commit? Would they sacrifice? Would they build a life with her? That's a different calculation entirely. She's confusing the abundance of meaningless attention with actual market value. Like someone thinking they're rich because they have a wallet full of monopoly money. This misperception creates entitlement that poisons your relationship. She thinks she's doing you a favor by being there. Thinks you should be grateful she chose you. Thinks her mere presence is enough contribution. So she stops trying, stops initiating, stops seeing you as someone to win over, and starts seeing you as someone already won. And things that don't require maintenance in her mind stop matching. The consequences for you are brutal. You feel ignored, like your needs don't matter. Neglected, like you're not worth the effort. Taken for granted, like a paycheck that shows up regardless of recognition. You're living with someone who thinks she's blessing you with her presence while treating you like an appliance. And the sickest part, you're letting her. You're enabling this delusion by not creating consequences. She genuinely doesn't understand her market value, isn't what she imagines. That being chosen once doesn't mean she'd be chosen again. That keeping a man requires different skills than catching one. She's like an athlete who won one game and thinks that makes him a permanent champion, not realizing the game never ends and competitors never stop training. Watch how she lights up when strangers give her attention, how she becomes animated, engaged, present. That's the energy she used to bring to you. But now, you're not a stranger to impress. You're a guarantee to take for granted. You're not a man to win over. You're a resource to exploit. And she doesn't even realize she's doing it because you've never shown her the cost of this behavior. The delusion extends to her physical presentation. She saves her best appearance for girls' nights out, work events, social gatherings. But for you, sweatpants and messy hair. No effort, no energy, no attempt to be attractive. Because in her mind, you're already caught. The game is over. She won. She doesn't understand that marriage isn't a victory lap, but a marathon that never ends. Successful escorts understand something your wife doesn't. Actions have consequences. Treat a client poorly, lose the client. Provide minimal service, get minimal payment. Stop maintaining attraction. Stop attracting. They understand desire isn't automatic. That value requires maintenance. That attention must be earned repeatedly, not assumed permanently. These women know human behavior responds to consequences, not feelings. You can feel grateful all you want, but if you don't show it, it doesn't exist. You can feel attracted internally, but if you don't express it, it's meaningless. You can love someone deeply, but if you don't demonstrate through action, it's just a story you tell yourself. Tell yourself. They operate in reality, where results matter more than intentions. Your wife lacks this understanding because she's never faced consequences. She reduces intimacy. You stay. She neglects your needs. You remain faithful. She treats you like a roommate. You keep paying the bills. Where's the consequence? Where's the incentive to change? She's learned she can give minimum effort for maximum security. And you've been her teacher. The behavioral reinforcement you're providing is destroying your marriage. Every time you accept neglect without consequence, you're training her to neglect you more. Every time you tolerate disrespect without response, you're teaching her disrespect is acceptable. Every time you remain fully committed while receiving partial effort, you're reinforcing that partial effort is enough. You're literally conditioning her to desire you less. Working women maintain attraction consciously because their livelihood depends on it. They understand male attention is transactional, that value must be provided consistently, that the moment they stop creating desire is the moment they stop receiving benefits. Your wife has no such pressure. She gets the benefits regardless of performance, the security regardless of effort, the commitment regardless of contribution. They also understand energy management. They know when to be available and when to create distance, when to give attention and when to withhold it, when to satisfy and when to leave someone wanting more. These aren't manipulations. They're an understanding of human psychology. Your wife has forgotten these dynamics because she's never had to remember them. You're always there, always available, always providing, regardless of what she provides in return. Good men destroy their own relationships by being too good. You tolerate emotional neglect because you think that's what good husbands do. You accept minimal intimacy because you think that's love. You avoid creating consequences because you think that's being understanding. But what you're actually doing is teaching her that your needs don't matter, that your desires are optional, that your satisfaction is unnecessary. You abandon your masculine responsibility to lead, to create standards, to establish consequences. You think being passive is being kind, but it's actually being weak. And weakness doesn't inspire desire. It inspires contempt. Not conscious contempt, but the unconscious loss of respect that kills attraction faster than any physical change ever could. Masculine energy isn't about domination. It's about decisiveness, about presence, about strength that creates security. When you withdraw that energy, when you become passive, when you stop leading, her feminine energy has nothing to respond to. She needs your masculine frame to activate her feminine response. Without it, she becomes masculine by default, and masculine women don't feel desire for passive men. Your withdrawal or shift in energy is the only thing that signals consequences. Not angry withdrawal, not punitive silence, but the genuine shift that comes from self-respect. When she feels you pulling away, not manipulatively, but authentically, something primal activates. The fear of loss, the recognition of value, the understanding that you're not a guarantee. This shift can realign the entire dynamic, but most men are too afraid to risk it. You think maintaining peace is maintaining relationship, but peace without passion is death. Comfort without desire is roommates. Security without sexuality is friendship. You're so focused on avoiding conflict that you're avoiding connection. So committed to being good that you stop being attractive. So determined to be understanding that you become invisible. Look at yourself honestly. When did you stop being the man she desired and become the man she depends on? When did you trade being her lover for being her provider? When did you accept that your sexual needs matter less than her comfort? These aren't natural progressions. They're choices you made. By not making choices, by not maintaining standards, by not requiring mutual desire as a condition of continued investment. You create a dynamic where she gets everything she needs while you get nothing you want. Her security needs are met through your provision. Her emotional needs are met through your presence. Her social needs are met through the status of marriage. But your sexual needs, your desire for passion, your hunger for being wanted, those are treated as inconveniences to her comfortable arrangement. Female sexual desire operates differently than yours. She can go weeks, months, even years without sexual engagement and not feel the deprivation you feel. Her drive isn't constant like yours. It's responsive. It needs activation. And in long-term relationships, that activation doesn't happen automatically. It requires effort, energy, intentionality, none of which she's providing because she doesn't understand she needs to. Long-term relationships naturally decline in sexual intensity. Novelty fades. Mystery disappears. The chemical cocktail of new love stops flowing. This is biological reality. But most couples interpret this as falling out of love rather than what it actually is. The transition from passive desire to active choice, from automatic attraction to intentional connection, from chemical reaction to conscious decision. Male initiation is often necessary to revive sexual energy. But you've stopped initiating because you're tired of rejection. She stopped responding because she's not naturally aroused. You both wait for the other to create what neither of you is creating. And in that stalemate, desire dies. Not dramatically, just slowly, quietly. Until one day you realize you're living with a stranger who shares your bed. The misalignment between desire and action creates death spirals. You want her but don't pursue because you fear rejection. She might respond but doesn't initiate because she feels no active desire. You both interpret the other's inaction as lack of interest. Both withdraw further. Both protect themselves from vulnerability. Both kill the very thing they claim to want. Her biology doesn't create spontaneous desire for familiar partners. Your presence doesn't trigger the same response it did initially. This isn't personal, it's physiological. But instead of understanding this and working with it, she assumes her lack of desire means something's wrong with the relationship. Or worse, she assumes it's normal and stops trying entirely. The biological reality is that female desire in long-term relationships requires conscious cultivation. It needs to be built through anticipation, through tension, through polarity. But she's eliminated all of these. There's no anticipation because you're always available. No tension because everything's comfortable. No polarity because you've both become neutral roommates. And in this flat emotional landscape, desire cannot grow. She doesn't understand that her lack of sexual interest isn't evidence of lost love. It's evidence of lost effort. That her body needs different stimulation than yours to activate desire. That waiting to feel like it means waiting forever. That desire in long-term relationships is a choice before the feeling. But she's waiting for the feeling without making the choice. Women respond to consequences, not constant tolerance. This isn't about punishment. It's about reality. When actions have outcomes, behavior changes. When neglect has cost, attention increases. When taking someone for granted has risk, appreciation grows. But you created a consequence-free environment where she can neglect you indefinitely without risk. Emotional neglect continues when you fail to assert boundaries. Not aggressive boundaries, not ultimatums, but clear standards about what you'll accept. When she treats you like furniture, you don't have to remain in the room. When she neglects intimacy, you don't have to provide boyfriend benefits. When she takes you for granted, you don't have to be constantly available. These aren't games. They're natural consequences. Setting standards and withdrawing energy teaches lessons words never could. When you stop being constantly available, she notices your absence. When you invest energy elsewhere, she feels the deficit. When you stop pursuing, she experiences a loss. These consequences communicate what your complaints never accomplished. That your presence is voluntary. Your commitment is conditional on mutual effort. Your love doesn't mean accepting neglect. Consequences enforce accountability. She needs to know that treating you poorly has cost. That neglecting intimacy risks losing connection. That taking you for granted might result in you being gone. Not as threats, but as natural outcomes. Like touching fire burns, neglecting partners creates distance. And only when she feels that distance does she remember your value. The goal isn't to manipulate, but to maintain self-respect. You're not playing games to make her chase you. You're genuinely investing your energy where it's appreciated. You're not withdrawing to punish her. You're protecting yourself from continued neglect. You're not creating fake consequences. You're allowing real consequences to naturally occur. Start small. When she rejects intimacy, don't cuddle afterwards. When she treats you dismissively, leave the room. When she takes you for granted, make other plans. Not angrily, not dramatically, just naturally. Let her feel the absence of benefits she's been receiving without reciprocation. Let her experience what life feels like without your constant presence and provision. Escorts maintain attention and respect consciously because they understand value dynamics. They know male investment follows female effort, that desire requires cultivation, that attraction demands maintenance. They treat every interaction as an opportunity to create value, not an obligation to endure. Your wife has forgotten these fundamentals. Married women often neglect these dynamics because they think the contract guarantees a connection. The ring ensures a relationship. The vows secure the value. But marriage isn't a destination. It's a continuation. The game doesn't end at, I do. That's where it intensifies. Because now you're competing against complacency, familiarity, and the slow death of taking each other for granted. She doesn't value what maintaining attraction requires because she's never lost it. She's never experienced a good man walking away, never felt the consequences of neglect, never learned that good relationships are rare and fragile, requiring constant care. She treats your relationship like it's permanent when it's actually perpetually renewable, and she's been coasting on automatic renewal without reading the terms. Treating relationships as rare prevents complacency. When she understands that what you have is exceptional and valuable, behavior changes. When she recognizes that good men who tolerate marriage without intimacy have options, effort increases. When she realizes that her position isn't guaranteed, investment returns. But this realization only comes through experiencing consequences, not hearing complaints. The value she's forgotten isn't just sexual. It's about presence, attention, energy, effort. About making you feel like a priority instead of an obligation. About treating you like a lover instead of a provider. About seeing you as a man with options instead of guarantee. She's forgotten that your presence is a gift, not a given. That your commitment is earned, not assumed. That your love is valuable, not automatic. Men regain control by shifting energy and enforcing consequences. Not control over her, but control over yourself. Over what you'll accept, over where you'll invest, over how you'll allow yourself to be treated. This shift in energy changes everything. Not immediately, but inevitably, because energy shifts are felt before they're understood. Withdrawal from tolerance signals change. When you stop accepting minimal effort, she feels the standard rise. When you stop being available for neglect, she notices the absence. When you stop providing husband benefits for roommate treatment, she experiences the loss. This withdrawal isn't angry or punitive. It's the natural result of self-respect returning. Attractiveness and desire are maintained through accountability. When both parties know their position requires effort, effort continues. When both understand that neglect has consequences, attention persists. When both feel the stakes, investment remains high. But you remove the stakes for her while maintaining them for yourself, and that imbalance is killing everything. Healthy relationships emerge when both parties feel consequences, when both have something to lose, when both understand that their partner's presence is a choice, not an obligation. This doesn't mean living in fear. It means living in reality, where actions matter, effort counts, and taking someone for granted is recognized as a relationship killer it actually is. Your transformation starts with recognizing your own value, understanding that you deserve desire, not just tolerance, that you merit enthusiasm, not just acceptance, that you're worth effort, not just presence. And when you truly understand this, when you embody this, when you stop accepting less than this, everything changes. Not because you demanded it, but because you stopped accepting less than you deserve. The shift in your energy will confuse her at first. She'll wonder why you're distant, why you're not pursuing, why you're not available. Good. Let her wonder. Let her experience the uncertainty she's never felt. Let her question the security she's taken for granted. This confusion is the beginning of awareness, the start of recognizing what she's been risking without knowing it. She needs to feel your absence to value your presence. Not vindictive absence, not manipulative distance, but the genuine redirection of energy toward where it's appreciated. When you stop being constantly available, she remembers that you're choosable. When you invest in yourself, she sees you as investable. When you have options, she remembers she was once an option. 2. The comfortable assumption that you'll always be there is killing her desire. Security breeds complacency. Guarantee breeds neglect. The knowledge that you're locked down removes the need to keep winning you. But when that assumption gets challenged, when that security gets questioned, when that guarantee becomes conditional, suddenly you're not furniture anymore. You're a person, a valuable person, a person who might leave. This isn't about making her jealous or playing games. It's about living in truth. The truth that you don't have to accept neglect, that you won't tolerate indefinite rejection, that your commitment comes with conditions, namely mutual effort and desire. When she feels this truth, not through words, but through energy, through actions, through consequences, desire often returns. Not always, but often enough to try. The transformation in her behavior, when she realizes you have options, is profound. Suddenly, she sees you through different eyes, not as a guaranteed provider, but as the choosable partner, not as a lockdown husband, but as the man other women would want. This shift in perception changes everything, because desire follows value, and value is only recognized in contrast to potential loss. Remember, you're not trying to hurt her or manipulate her. You're trying to wake her up to what she's losing through neglect. You're trying to resurrect a woman who once desired you by becoming the man worth desiring again. You're trying to save your marriage by stopping the behaviors that are killing it. And sometimes that means letting her feel the reality of what life without your full presence would actually mean. The ultimate goal isn't to leave or to make her chase you forever. It's to reestablish a dynamic where both of you are choosing each other actively, where desire is cultivated consciously, where neglect has consequences and effort has rewards. It's to transform your marriage from a guarantee into a choice, from an obligation into a desire, from a habit into an intention. And that transformation starts the moment you stop accepting less than you deserve and start requiring the mutual desire that makes marriage worth maintaining. If this message resonates, if these patterns feel familiar, if you're tired being treated like furniture in your own marriage, share this with other men who need to hear it. Like this video if it exposed dynamics you're living but couldn't articulate. Subscribe for more unfiltered truth about relationships, desire, and the consequences that create change. Because someone needs to say what millions are experiencing, but nobody's discussing. The resurrection of desire starts with the death of accepting neglect.